Welcome to another video here on Coaster Voyager. We may be in the middle of a winter storm here where I live, but let's talk about something in sunny, tropical Orlando, Florida. Let's look at all of the roller coasters at the Universal Resort, past and present, and we're gonna rank them. And we'll talk about the future coaster upcoming, which was just announced, the Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift Coaster, coming in 2027, I think. But we'll talk about that more in the future. Anyway, let's get started with our ranking here. First up, we have the Curse of the Werewolf, a coaster that opened newly in 2025 at Epic Universe, of course the newest part. This is a pretty interesting ride. You get forwards and backwards launches and the vehicles spin. This was made by Mock Rides, which you may know some of their extreme spinners like the Time Traveler or the Rides of Happiness. Although this doesn't have any inversions and the transitions aren't as crazy. The theming on this is a little bit bare, it's a little bit lacking. You'd think with some of the other rides in this park they would have gone out with the werewolf theme and put a huge animatronic werewolf somewhere in the ride, but it doesn't have that. So probably a missed opportunity. The forwards and backwards aspect of it and the spinning makes it pretty exciting. So I'll start out, put this in C tier. Later on I'm going to rank each ride in each individual row, and in each row the one on the left will be higher, that'll be number 1, then to the right that'll be number 2, number 3, and so on. But anyway, moving on, we've got the defunct Dueling Dragons / Dragon Challenge coaster. That was the Dueling B&M inverted coaster at Islands of Adventure. Ran from 1999 until 2017. This had 2 distinct sides, but I'm gonna be ranking it as one. Full disclosure, I never got a chance to ride this one. I'm a fan of B&M invert. I like the positive G's, and on top of that, the dueling aspect really adds a whole another element of excitement. This used the same queue that is now used by Hagrid's Magical Motorbike Adventure, which is in the same spot as this. So it's interesting that that part of the attraction persevered and was preserved for the future attraction. So for Dueling Dragons itself, each side was 3,200 feet long, 125 feet tall, top speed of 60 miles per hour, somewhere around there. And each side had 5 inversions. There were some near miss elements where the 2 tracks would cross one another. But all that to say, each side was pretty different. I'm limiting myself here and ranking them both as one attraction. I think it's a solid A tier though. I want to say it's an Intamin junior coaster. Being more of a kid's coaster, it's not that exciting, but there is an animatronic Hippogriff at the start of the lift hill, which really ties it in with the theming of the whole Harry Potter area, and it puts it above another kiddie coaster at this park that we'll probably see later. All that being said though, I'll still have to put it in D tier for now. I might move it later. Next, we've got Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. Probably the longest name for any roller coaster. If you know a longer one, let me know in the comments. This is the ride that replaced Dueling Dragons back in 2019. was the most expensive attraction built at a theme park in the US at the time. I want to say it was $300 million this thing cost, but I think the price tag was worth it. It's very elaborate. There's about 7 launches, I think, both forwards and backwards. There's a drop track in one of the dark areas of the ride with sort of a show section. I want to say the top speed is 50 miles an hour. It's very immersive and creates this illusion of being in the Harry Potter universe very well. I should also mention the seating is very unique, and you have one side is higher up like a motorcycle, and then the other is more of a sidecar that's lower to the ground. So this one for me is definitely going to S2 right away. Next we have Hiccup's Wing Gliders at Epic Universe, opened last year in 2025. This is an Intamin family launch coaster in the How to Train Your Dragon Isle of Berk area. This one has some really cool and unique animatronics. They're of course based on the How to Train Your Dragon films. See Hiccup and his dragon, of course toothless, going through the process of inventing these flying machines, and then you, the riders, testing them out. The layout goes over a pond, over and under a bridge, and these launches are pretty intense, so it makes for a fun ride that everybody can enjoy. So I'm going to put this actually in A, behind Dueling Dragons for now, putting all the dragon coasters together. Next we have the now defunct Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit, which was retired and torn down in August of last year, 2025. Up to that point, it was the tallest roller coaster at Universal Orlando at 160 feet tall, I believe. It had a top speed of 70 miles per hour and actually no inversions. The big element you see was that looks like an inversion was actually a non-inverting loop. Supposedly you got to choose the soundtrack you got while listening to this ride for a menu. They even had a secret menu with more songs. But this wasn't my experience. Somehow that feature didn't work when I rode this. But it didn't detract from the ride experience too much. However, I've got to say it was pretty rough in a lot of places. Some really awkward and jerky transitions, some really awkward brake runs throughout the ride also. It's too bad it's gone now, but there was probably a lot of missed potential with this one. But at least we can look forward to the upcoming replacement for it, but we'll talk about that one later. For now, I'm going to put Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit in C tier, actually behind Curse of the Werewolf, the newer and smoother ride being out the older and rougher one. Now we've got another classic, Incredible Hulk launched B&M inverting looper, the first launch coaster actually to open in Florida. This one opened, and then 2 months later you had the Rock and Roller Coaster over at Hollywood Studios at Disney open. So it's a pretty close race there, but the Hulk actually won. Speaking of roughness, the track on this was actually completely replaced back in 2016. So up until that point there was a lot of fatigue and, wear on the original track. But ever since then it's been pretty smooth, which helps balance out some of the intensity of this ride. It feels like it's trying to rip your head off at a lot of places. Really feeling the power of the big green monster. So a pretty unique and exciting layout. It'll leave you seeing stars, no doubt, but I really enjoy those aspects of the ride, so I'm going to put Hulk in A tier. See, it's going above Hiccup's wing gliders. Now the question is, would it be above Dueling Dragons? Which of course is hard because I never rode that one. I'm gonna have to put it ahead because I really love launch coasters. Just that surprise of the launch and the initial punch, it's hard to beat. So I'd put that over a lift hill coaster most of the time. So moving on, we've got Minecart Madness at Epic Universe. Minecart Madness, we've got the trick track where it appears that the ride vehicles are on top of a fake track when actually they're mounted on a vertical track under it, which is an effect that really tripped me out. It was very cool to watch. The track design, I think, makes this a pretty rough though. Something about the vertical track and the center of gravity of the cars probably makes it kind of shaky. But you could also say that's adding to the ride experience. Make it feel like you're really on a rickety minecart in a Donkey Kong game. And on the topic of immersion and theming, there's a lot of it in this ride. Some of the animatronics at the end and effects make you really feel like you're in one of those games. And if you're like me and grew up playing Donkey Kong Jungle Beat, then that's really wild to see. So that gives it points for me. Right now B tier is open and looks like it's got a spot right in there. So congratulations, Minecart Madness, you're the first one in our B tier. Now, coming up next, we've got Pteranodon Flyers. This is a unique one. Inverted coaster, I guess, at Islands of Adventure. There is a restriction on who can ride it though. And if you're not a child or you're not a parent of a child, then you're not allowed to ride it most of the time. And obviously I'm not a kid and I don't have kids, so I don't have experience with this one. Looks like it would be kind of a relaxing ride experience more than a traditional roller coaster, but I can't really say too much about it. For now, I'm gonna have to put it in D tier, below Flight of the Hippogriff. Alright, so next we got Revenge of the Mummy, the premier indoor launch coaster based on the Mummy movies. This one has got some really interesting effects and launches. You see the animatronic Imhotep mummy coming after you right at the beginning, and then you get some pyro and some mummy soldiers coming after you. So it's a pretty intense in terms of visual effects. Even when you get into the main course, you get some pretty rapid transitions around some neon mummy faces and things like that. So it's pretty trippy. I've got to put this, actually gonna put it in A tier. Let's see, A tier is getting pretty heavy, and not to say they don't all deserve A tier, but I want to have this a little more balanced. I'm gonna move Hiccup's wing gliders down to B tier above Minecart Madness. Okay, next we've got Stardust Racers, the dueling mock launch coaster, also at Epic Universe. This one is easily an S tier, above Hagrid's. Probably one of the best roller coasters in the world. I'd give it a 10 out of 10, honestly. Just for the launches, the effects, the transitions, the airtime, the inversion in the middle. There's only one, but it's really an epic moment when the trains cross over one another in that inversion. And then especially at night when you have the lights on the trains lighting up, it's really a fantastic experience. So that Stardust Racers is going straight to the top. Alright, next we've got the Trollercoaster at Universal Studios. This is the other kids coaster at the parks. Used to be the Woody Woodpecker Funhouse or Nut House coaster, one of those two, and then it was replaced, or rather rethemed, with this. I'm not too familiar with the Trolls movies, but I guess the kids love them these days. I don't know. But I do know this is similar to their roller skater model. This is a Vekoma kids coaster, and I have been on a similar model with the roller skater at Kentucky Kingdom, which is not bad for what it is. But here I'm going to have to put this at the bottom of D tier, below Pteranodon Flyers. It's just a pretty basic stock kids coaster that doesn't interest me that much. Okay, next we got one of the real ones here, VelociCoaster at Islands of Adventure. If there's anything that could beat Stardust Racers, this is it. I said Stardust Racers was a 10 out of 10. This could potentially be an 11 out of 10. So I'm going to put this right at the top. There's two launches on this thing. The first one is nuts. It's just an insane pace that puts you into the first part of the course. You get a couple inversions, go past some velociraptors coming at you, and then you go into the second launch, which is like some sort of spaceship taking off and go over that top hat. The rest is just incredibly paced. It's hard to believe roller coasters can do this these days. That's truly another one of the greats in the world of roller coasters. Straight at the top of S tier is where it's going. And finally, we got the 14th roller coaster at the Universal Parks, Harry Potter and the Escape from Gringott, with of course the fire-breathing dragon on top of the Gringott's bank building. This was one where going in I didn't know what to expect, but the 3D effects and how the ride uses them was some of the best 3D effects I've seen on a ride. It really makes for a show, kind of a theatrical experience, with not only the 3D but the launches and the spinning. Say it's more like a theater, because at some points in the ride it's not even moving, but combined with the scenes that you're seeing and how the ride vehicle interacts with that and the 3D effects, it makes it a thrill ride all the way through. So I'm really understating how great of a coaster it actually is. So I'm going to put this, I think, in A tier, above Revenge of the Mummy. Again, to balance things out, I'm moving Mummy down to B tier. So we've got Dueling Dragons, and then Gringott's in A, and now we've got Revenge of the Mummy, Hiccup Swing Gliders, and Minecart Madness in B. I'm pretty happy with how everything else is, so that'll do it for my ranking of the coasters at Universal. Now we've got the news of the new coaster coming here in 2027 to replace Hollywood Rip Ride Rockit. They closed that down in August of 2025. I've already started demolishing it and planning and building the new coaster, which it was just announced that it would be a Fast and Furious Hollywood Drift, just like the one that's set to open at Universal Hollywood later this year in 2026. So that'll be exciting to have another version of that here on the eastern part of the US. But let me know what your thoughts on the new coaster are. Are you excited? And what do you know about this? I know the cars are supposed to have that drifting feature where they drift just like you're in a street race, like the Fast and Furious movies, obviously. But it'll be exciting to see this roller coaster as it's constructed and leading up to opening day. So that'll do it for this ranking. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on my next voyage.